hiatus. I know you all missed us, or you didn't.
I missed you.
Dude, I mean, if you did miss us, let us know because fragile little egos, fragile little egos. But I do want to ask you, please like us on Facebook. You can contact us through one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. You can support us through Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search for one card and one cup and one beer, and you can support us for as little as $3 or as much as $10 a month. All is greatly appreciated. Also, those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you would please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you will have notification anytime that we drop something new. We would appreciate that. If you want to be a contestant on a trivia contest, guest on one of our panels, or if you have an interesting baseball story, anecdote, related topic that you know something about, just DM us or send us a message or email us. Let us know, hey, I'd like to be on the show. I know a lot about sweeping out the bleachers or something like that. We'd love to hear your stories.
I find that fascinating.
I, yeah, the vomit and everything. Yeah, baseball games, you don't find the drunk people like you used to. It's more of a family atmosphere. But
It,
I've seen plenty of people throw up. I saw one guy actually lean. I grew up in the bleachers,
ah.
called the debauchery. I did once see a guy lean over the wall and throw up on the warning track while everybody in
Oh.
the bleachers chanted puke, puke, puke.
Well, they stop the beer at the seventh inning stretch. I think that's it. You're cut off then. You can get. I've seen people buy two and go up there and get ready for the last innings. That's probably a good idea.
Speaking of beer,
Ooh,
it's time for the beer corner.
yay!
And I am doing
Oh,
Guinness
fancy.
Draft Stout.
Ooh,
Okay,
fancy
those of
stuff.
you who are not familiar with Guinness, let me go through this really quick. Guinness has been around since 1758. Okay, now they did not come up with a successful way of canning this until 1988. Guinness is roasted barley, malted barley, hops, yeast, and water. That's really all it is. But they have a little ball in each can called a widget. Okay? I don't know why they call it a widget, but they call it a widget. And it's a molded device that sits on the top of the contents of each can of Guinness Draft. So when the can's opened, a small amount of beer and nitrogen that is trapped in the widget is forced through the beer, which creates the famous surge and creamy head that you find in a pint of Guinness Draft when it's served at a pub. So the only way they could duplicate that is to come up with this widget in the can. Nitrogen-filled ball gives Guinness Draft in cans the taste and texture of the pub poured pint at home. So Guinness is a different beer. First thing I have to do is open it. And as you can hear, I got that widget falling in there, and you have to pour this at a 45-degree angle. And as you can see, it is tremendously dark and creamy.
You're really selling it. I think you could be a pitch man for Guinness. Oh
Now,
yeah, look at
it's
that.
hard to tell on this, but this is still kind of tan. You have to wait for all that nitrogen to get done. You got kind of what looks like a root beer colored
Right.
foam up here. And now this is just kind of a clear black
Yes.
beer. Okay. Even though this is only 4%, 4.1% alcohol, this is a European beer. I've had this once in my life, and I'm American. Okay. So this is guaranteed to put hair on my back. So
Wow, man.
let's see how Vince does with this very, very European beer.
Very good.
Wow. It's different, but it is good. It is pretty good. And for those of you who have not noticed, on the Facebook page, I have put every beer that we have done in the beer corner, and I put a ranking out of 5 stars. Um, I don't think anything's got 5 stars yet. I think
Foster's was pretty high up there.
And I think Foster got a 4.5, and I think Milwaukee's Best got a half a star, 1.5, something like that. It was pretty bad. So, those of you who want to keep up with this, but you know, this is better than I remembered, because the last time I had it was, gosh, 25 years ago, and a friend of mine said try it, and it was just like I'd never had anything like that before. And I think the last time I had it, I actually started drinking it before everything had settled. So, but anyway, it's not bad. It's not
Is
bad.
that a high dollar beer? Is that a high dollar one?
Um, about $2.50 for a
Okay.
16-ounce can.
Okay.
About 14.9-ounce can. So it's not bad. So I'll probably give it a 4 stars.
All right, man. We're hitting the good times right
Uh,
now.
and if you'll notice, the mug isn't frosty. You don't serve it in a frosty mug. You serve it in a room
Oh,
temperature mug.
I did not know that.
I
Okay.
did not know that either until I bought it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to read the instructions on how to do this beer, because I've had it once, and I think I screwed it up the last time. So anyway,
Beer has
there's
got complicated. I didn't know there were so
oh
many
yeah,
rules.
it can get complicated. So give us an update on our fantasy league.
Ooh, fantasy league. We've had 2 weeks off. There's been a little moving around of teams right now. We'll start out over in the American League. I will say this: Ray Hartman is so excited about this. I talk to him about every other week, see what's going on, and his Red Sox have creeped over the Royals and the Seattle Mariners to take over the number one spot in the American League, 49-40.
We got to get
Uh,
Ray back on the show.
yeah,
He's
Ray.
my favorite guest.
Oh, yeah, he'll love it.
Anybody who would rather listen to a game on the radio than watch it on TV, that fascinates me. That's not my ball of wax. I love listening to it on the radio, but if I have my preference, I'm going to watch it. So we need to get Ray back on here and put him on a
I,
panel.
I
And
tell you what, traveling late at night, I can ride all the way back home and listen to the game. And Rooney and Horton have done a really good job of taking over the broadcast on the radio. So I do enjoy it, but I'm with you. I'd rather see the faces and kind of connect who I'm seeing and all this with when I hear how it's going. But the radio's still pretty good. I love our broadcasters. I get to listen to them quite a bit when I'm at work too.
so I'm
But
happy Ray's doing good in fantasy baseball.
yes, yeah, good, Ray. You're hanging in there. You're a game and a half ahead of both the Seattle Mariners and the Kansas City Royals, which is Andrew Gieselman and Brody Jackson. And then 7 games back, the Detroit Tigers have started to fade a little bit. Tony, come on, you got to get that team going. They were so good in April. They were actually in first place there for a little bit. The California Angels or Anaheim Angels have are in fifth place, and they're 37-52, and it just I don't know. The long season seems to be catching up with them. Candy, though, she's a trooper. She comes in, and her and her son check out the Angel games. They know a lot. Before the year, they only knew Trout. Now they know about 8 or 9 players on the team, which is cool. That's what it's all about, getting to know the team and these. And she'll tell me who the upcoming schedule is. So that's pretty cool. But last place is our friend Dan Rutledge and the Chicago White Sox, 26-66. Believe it or not, Vince, they have picked up the pace a little bit. They are only 24 and a half games out, almost a month back with 2 months to go. So
Go Sox.
go Sox. What a miracle comeback that would be. So right now in the American League, it'd be the Kansas City or the Boston Red Sox. Over in the National League, for some teams it's the dreaded, for other teams it's the great. St. Louis Cardinals are hanging in there. Kevin Lee, 48-42 in first place.
Kevin.
Kevin, yeah, the Padres, which is Robbie Spear, who's won many of our contests and participates quite a bit, advertises a lot for the podcast. Love old Robbie. They're 1 game back, the San Diego Padres from the Cardinals. You got the Pirates still hanging in there, 43-47, 5 games back. The Nationals, which I'll talk more about the Nationals, but that Tom Majay, 6.5 back, tied with the Cubs, which is Larry Wildy, 42-49. Larry, he's sending out good well wishes for Larry. He's in the hospital right now, doing better. He'll be getting to come home soon, but he watches baseball and listens to the podcast while he's in the hospital. So thinking of you, Larry. And finally, in last place, Doing much better than the White Sox, though, is the Colorado Rockies, Brandon Schmidt, 16 and a half back. So right now, we're getting close. We're getting in the beginnings of July. This is going to end at the end of August, and two teams will play, and whoever wins the most in September is our world champion. So right now it would be the old rivals, the Boston Red Sox and St. Louis Cardinals, which would be a fun World Series. So that's how it stands right now, Vince.
All right. Getting into general baseball news, I guess you saw that Orlando Cepeda passed away.
Yes, I did. Yeah, great Cardinal, man. We got him. Uh, Vince, you want to talk about him first, and then I'll come in and kind of clean up after that?
That's fine. I found it interesting. They both started. Cepeda and McCovey both started in the early '60s with the San Francisco Giants. They were both first basemen, and even though McCovey won the Rookie of the Year in only like 55 games, and I think it was 62. For the first few years, he was more or less a part-time player because they were both first basemen. And as McCovey put it, and Cepeda even admitted it, Cepeda was kind of a diva and didn't want to play the outfield or anything. So McCovey, big lumbering, huge guy, would be out in the outfield
Stretch.
trying to get his at bats anyways possible. What I do remember about Orlando Cepeda, I didn't see him play. He was a little before my time, but he got arrested for marijuana possession, and he always maintained his innocence, or maybe it was smuggling or something. He always maintained his innocence. So, and I know that criminals always maintain their innocence, whatever, but
Ain't that the truth?
when what I saw of him, there was pretty compelling evidence that he was kind of set up. So I don't know. But when he served his time, he went to the White Sox as a hitting coach, and um, this was the late '70s, and it was that time period of my life, like a 3 year time period where I could watch White Sox games, and the White Sox were not a good team. And but Thad Bosley was one of their bench players.
I
Thad
remember
Bosley
that. I remember him.
career, and he was one of the few that Cepeda really took under his wing and taught him the nuances of pinch hitting and being ready to hit and how to hit as a left-hander versus left-handers. And it turned Bosley's career around. He was never a star, but he was a heck of a fourth outfielder slash pinch hitter. And he always credited Orlando Cepeda for that. And uh, I every time I saw him interviewed, he seemed to be a nice guy, um, which was weird that when he came up, he was described as a diva. But those are my memories of him. Well, clean
I
this.
have I have a few, and I have a brush with them at a card show. They had the National Baseball Card Convention one time in St. Louis, and you got a little ticket, and then you reached it. They kind of drew numbers, and I got Orlando Cepeda to an autograph thing, and I wanted a ball. I never had a ball signed before, so I got Cepeda to sign the ball, and it's basically, hey, how you doing? Hey, here you go. Thanks a lot. And that was basically it. But I went to college at when I got out of the Navy at Jefferson College, and just took 2 years of general classes, and I was trying to get into the nurses program. Well, my anatomy and physiology teacher was Dr. Hampton, who was also from Arkansas. And at the time, I know it don't look like it, but I used to run marathons and run long distance and stuff like that. And me and Dr. Hampton became friends. And he knew I loved baseball. And he goes, you know who my favorite player is? Orlando Cepeda. And he went to a benefit to raise money for, I don't know, I can't remember what it was. He got to meet him. They became friends. They ended up, him, Orlando, and his wife came to Dr. Hampton's house. Dr. Hampton and his wife went to their house, became very good friends. He had me come up to his office, and he had a picture of all this memorabilia, but in the middle was a picture of Dr. Hampton and Orlando Cepeda. And he goes, you know, they say don't meet your heroes, But you know what? They were wrong when they Orlando Cepeda was everything I could hope for and more. So that was pretty cool story right there. Wow, Orlando Cepeda, and that was his favorite player because growing up, he was always a Cardinal fan in the late 60s, 67, 68. They were called the El Robertos, and it was because we had a lot of Spanish players on our team, and they were some of the biggest leaders on the team. But he won the MVP in the National League, and that was in 67 with a 325 batting average, and he had a 21 game hit streak and 111 RBIs. We traded Ray Sadecki. I never knew how we got him. We traded Ray Sadecki to the Giants, and plus they had the two first basemen, like you mentioned earlier, and they were going with McCovey. So Cepeda was, able. We were able to get him, and he had a great 3 year career here. In '66, he was comeback player of the year. '67, he was MVP. We won the World Series. 68, we go to the World Series and lose, and we trade him in the winter of 69. And we trade him to Atlanta for Joe Torre, who later becomes an MVP in 71. So it's kind of a nice story there. I think of him as a giant because he spent most of his career there. But those years with St. Louis was really special. He made a lot of memories, a lot of fans here in those 3 years he was here. But he also played for Kansas City, Boston, Oakland, and then those 4 years at Atlanta as well. And you know, didn't see him much around the ballpark anymore. He didn't come to like the Red Jacket Day or any of the special events or anything. So I really hadn't seen him in a long time, but it did come as a surprise. And his nickname was the Baby Bull. I'm sure there's a story behind that. I don't know what it is. So anyway, that's my thoughts on and we call him Cha Cha. Orlando Cha Cha Cepeda, I think, was his nickname was with the Cardinals. So that's kind of my story on Cepeda.
Yeah, there was a time where it was believed that he was being kept out of the hall because of the arrest and incarceration, but he did eventually make it in. And now, I mean, now I can throw a rock and hit a dispensary. Shows how much society has changed.
Drive through marijuana, just
Yeah,
when you gotta have it, man.
yeah. So, anyway, I don't know if you've noticed this. Did you see who is now making their move in the American League West?
The old, the evil empire themselves, the Houston Astros.
The
Here they
Astros.
come. Here they come,
Yes,
man. You can't count
man.
them out.
I I I I kind of slept on the Astros. I thought, okay, yeah, they're capable of making a run or whatever, but the team I've really been waiting to wake up is the Rangers. Come on, Rangers, you're
Yeah.
a little below 500, half the season's gone. What are you doing? All of a sudden, I started looking at, man, the Astros are red hot. Man, the Astros are coming. Wow. The Astros look terrible at the beginning of the year. So
They sure did.
I don't like to say that there are some teams that can press on the gas when they want to because no one really does that. But there are times when you get to a malaise when you're a very successful franchise and you'll go through these long periods where you're just not playing up to it. And then for some reason, you'll snap out of it. And that seems to be what's happened with the Astros. So it's good for baseball to have the American League West be strong. Um, and it would be great to see both Texas teams in the playoffs battling it out each other. That's become a really cool rivalry.
That is great. And Seattle, I have a fondness for Seattle. It'd be great to see them just in the race. So they're there. It's for the taking. They got all the pitching in the world. They just haven't hit real well yet. But that's going to be a three headed monster going down the stretch. That's going to be fun right there.
Yeah.
A lot of better. Is this the first year they've been without Dusty Baker? Did he retire last year or was it 2 years ago?
It
Sometime
was two
time gets
years
away.
ago after the World Series, I think.
Okay. Okay. So this manager's been there for a little bit. Okay.
So,
One thing I was going to mention, and a little behind the scenes here, we never know what we're going to talk about. We just talk about the headlines. I know my headlines, what I'd like to talk about, but Vince has no idea what I'm going to say. So I'm going to throw something at him here that I know Vince. He knows the stuff. Uh, the each team now seems to besides the Cooperstown Hall of Fame, most teams have their own smaller Hall of Fame to celebrate Hall of Famers and players who didn't make the Hall of Fame, but are some of the best players in their team's history. Well, I don't know if you heard this since I saw you last, but Bo Jackson was inducted to the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame. And I know you lived out there, and we could go over his stats. Some people are like a comet, 20 years of excellence and big numbers, and they pile on numbers. But, Bo got hurt, and what an athlete, and he shined bright for those 5 years, and I've never seen anything like it. There's legends, and then there's just superstars, and I always thought of Bo Jackson as a superstar. You couldn't keep your eyes off him, offensively, defensively, running, catching, throwing people out. What did you know he made it into their Hall of Fame, and what's some of your recollections of Bo Jackson?
I had not heard that. My recollections are a few. Uh, I actually watched the game in Seattle when he threw the Harold Reynolds out at home on the fly from the wall in left center.
That was
Uh,
incredible.
so even when like he would run down a fly ball in the outfield that was by the wall instead of stop, he just catch and kind of run up the wall, run down the wall. He was
Spider-Man.
just he was just such a freak athlete and um at the time I'd never seen it before. I think I've seen it once or twice since then. But I was at a game and they're playing the Yankees and Bo's on first and Rigetti picks him off. And I know I've told this on here before. Um, every other time this happens, first baseman just catches the ball, throws it to second, you tag out the guy by 10 feet. So Mattingly gets the ball, wings it to second, and Bo beat the throw. And I mean,
That's amazing.
it was it was a little league stolen base. I thought, holy cow, this guy is unreal. But even his strikeouts, when he would take the bat and snap it over his knee or put it on his helmet, break it, it's just a freak. So,
Vince, I tried that one time and I had a bruise on my thigh for about 2 weeks. I thought,
you probably use an aluminum bat.
shoot, I never thought about that. Yeah, you're right. What there were so many great memories about Bo. I know, like the first time he hit like a 450-foot home run in Kansas City that was like the longest home run for years. I think it's since been broke, but everything he did was special in the field. Uh, the I remember there was a moment in time. I read a survey one time. There was like a 5 year stretch where the must see players, like right now, it would probably be Otani and Acuna and Skeens. As far as they go to another city and the people just come in droves to see him play. But at one time when Bo was playing, it was Nolan Ryan, Bo Jackson, and Jose Canseco, which is surprising now. He was a 40-40 man at the time, but those three guys just man, they packed the house when they came to town. But anyway, and the ceremony was great. George Brett was there, the announcer was there, his agent, his family, a lot of the old Kansas City Royals, and he gave them a lot of thanks for taking him under his wing because he kind of came at the end of that great run of Kansas City had for a long, long time. But I love Bo Jackson, and yeah, he was special, special man.
Well, we have the All-Star game, and
Ooh,
we
yeah.
will delay by one day next week's program. So we're not on here yakking during the All-Star game. We're going to record on Wednesday, and then we'll drop it on Thursday. Um, I was kind of looking at a few snubs. I don't want to go through everybody that's a snub, but a few that really stood out to me. Mason Wynn should be an all-star. A 2.8 WAR. He's a rookie. He's going to have a WAR over 5. That's incredible. Um, and I think his position with a premier team, how good he is with interviews. I think this is the type of player that they need to be pushing. So I was kind of surprised. I would put him in. That would, I remember one year Dontrell Willis came out of nowhere
Oh
and they put
yeah.
him on the All-Star team. and they had him commentating, I think it was the home run derby. And because Dontrell Willis is very engaging.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago in the playoffs, oh gosh, I can't remember the pitcher's name. He had one really good year, Archer for Tampa Bay.
Oh, yes, yes. I
Yeah,
remember
and
him.
so when they got knocked out, they put him in the booth as a commentator for the championship series. Very engaging, very, just, and Mason Wynn reminds me of that. Someone who is just young, but really good on a mic, the kind of player you would want to push for Major League Baseball. So I was surprised that he wasn't on there. Christian Walker has 22 home runs, 64 RBIs, and 853 OPS. He's been subbed. Now, some of these people will be added onto the All-Star team as like Jordan Westberg was just added today because someone has because of injury, and that happens every year. Some of these All-Stars get injured or whatever. And so some of these people put on there. But Bryce Terang, who, even though Nico Horner won the Gold Glove last year, Bryce Terang is right up there with him. He's a magician with the glove, and he's hitting 288 with 29 stolen bases this year with a 4.0 WAR. So I don't know how he's not on there because he certainly is one of the spark plugs to that offense in Milwaukee. And Brett Rooker, 278, 18 home runs, 54 RBIs for the A's. He may hit 100 RBIs for the A's. And I understood why they put in Mason Miller because
Oh, yeah.
the headline. And I know that these lower teams usually don't get more than their allotted one representative, but Brett Rooker I thought should have been on the All-Star team. And to go back to Christian Walker, um, I was reading a group and someone was saying, why is Alonso an All-Star? Because they named um, Walker and Michael Bush. They're having better years than him. And people were saying because you have to have one representative from each team, and you know that's it. So aside from that, I thought the teams were pretty solid, pretty representative. What do you think?
Yeah, baseball seems to be in a good spot right now. We have a lot of first time and second time players getting their shots in there. Brandon Webb, I was surprised it was his first All-Star appearance because I think that kid, that's one of my favorite young pitchers to watch. I went to a game, just a Cardinal Giant game, so I could watch Brandon Webb pitch. I really like that kid. I hope he spends his career with the Giants, but if he doesn't, come on over to St. Louis. We'd love to have you. I love that kid. But yeah, there's a lot of good young players in baseball, of course. Some great stories too, and I'm glad Chris Sale made the team. This guy, White Sox, Red Sox, some injuries, and now he's went over to Atlanta and found himself and having a heck of a year in the running for the Cy Young. So that's really good. So many great stories, and I know you can't make it. I'd like Win, as a Cardinal fan, I'd love to see him make it, because that's such a feather in his cap, and he's had such a good year, and he's such a big part of the team. But also on the other end of it, the 5 days off. Our bullpen desperately needs those 5 days off. I know Helsley's going as a Cardinal representative, and but the other guys stay home, relax, do the ice plunge, whatever you guys do, because it's going to be the stretch down after this is kind of the point of the season where you're like, all right, and now we get to the stretch. It seems like there's fewer days off. Games seem to mean a little bit more. I know they don't. There's 162 games, but now you're going for it all. And so many things are coming up, Vince. We got this All-Star break, and I like how baseball's done this. They now have moved the draft in there. So we're going to have a couple, the first round, second round of the draft in this 5 day bracket. You got the home run derby, you got the game itself, and I do love the game, but I wish they would wear their team's uniforms, not a National League and American League
Yeah,
uniform.
those days are going to be gone because
They
They
can
still
sell the
have to
jerseys.
sell more jerseys. Yeah.
Oh man, I tell you what. Hey, I love to see the Cub jerseys, the Yankees and the pinstripes, the Cardinals with the birds on the back. Love that, love that. And I know, I don't know. Maybe if there's enough of us out there whining, they'll do something. Throw us a, a little biscuit or something like that. I don't know, or
And
maybe just have a warm up.
the
Why
people
not?
who are whining are people our age, and we're
Yeah,
just not convincing anybody anymore. It's
yeah.
all the younger generation
we
stuff.
we whine about everything. I will give you a statistic though. This is, of course, all my statistics are lean towards the Cardinals, but the draft started in 1965, and the Cardinals have only had three pitchers they drafted that went to two All-Star games. And that's, I don't know. I don't think that's very good. We're not good with the pitchers. A lot of the pitchers we have success with are guys that came from other organizations. Adam Wainwright, of course, Gibson and Carlton were before the draft, so they don't really count. But here's the three guys that went to two All-Star games. Ryan Helsley now is going to his second All-Star game. We did draft him. Matt Morris, I know one of your favorites. He's kind of underrated, and he was a big part he was our ace for years and years and years. Matt Morris and Carlos Martinez went to two All-Star games. So, in Cardinal history, we usually have guys that do good, but they're usually from other teams that we pick up. Sonny Gray this year, our ace, came from another organization. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. And that's my all-star thing. So I forgot what the original question was, Vince. I went all over the place.
I
But
just, what do you think of the All Star
yeah,
selections?
I
And
think the selections were good. I really do. And the Phillies have been so good, and I think they've got seven guys on the All-Star team. And I see why. Usually it's the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Yankees and the Red Sox, but this year, you got a lot of Atlanta guys, and there's a lot of talent on that team. Us and you guys only have one guy. Um, Very deservingly so. And you know what I'd like to see? Your guy come in, get the win, and Helsley gets the save. Wouldn't that be nice? That'd be nice.
that'd
We'll
be
be
nice.
celebrating. Yeah, we'll be celebrating next week if that happens.
What, what do you think about Paul Steen starting?
Well, it is the all-star game. He is a star. People would like to see that. I think there's other people more deserving this year who played a lot more than him. Um, I guess I'd be okay with it, but I would rather see somebody like Chris Sale or Ranger Suarez or Corbin. Well, he's in that American League guy. There's about three or four guys I probably see that deserve it a little more. But Skeens would be fantastic. Have him go out there for an inning or two. Nowadays they just pitch one inning.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to see him get the start. I think that'd be pretty cool.
it'd be exciting. It'd be
Yeah.
exciting, man. See him go against those top American League guys. That'd be fun. Yeah,
As far as the Cubs go, I understand why Imanaga's going.
it deserves to. Yeah.
Actually, right now, as it sits, he's our third best starting pitcher. Uh, Steele is clearly our ace, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Steele is clearly our ace. He's upper echelon when it comes to starting pitchers. Um, and Tyone's been throwing the ball. He came into tonight's game with an ERA under 3, and
Yeah,
he's
right.
facing the Orioles. And last I saw, I can give an up-to-date score. Bottom of the 6th, we are winning 6-2. So Tyone's pitching good again against a great lineup. So I know why Imanaga's on there. I'm just saying, well, we've got two other guys that are even better than him, which shows you the state of our starting pitching, which is really good.
Yes, sir.
So
Vince, they have that old saying, if you go to a ball game, you might see something you never saw before. We went to that Met Cardinal game, and that's the first game I seen the third baseman go over, field the ball, and run over the umpire. Remember that? We saw
yeah,
that, and I had never seen that before. Well, this was something I've never seen since the pitch clock. We had our first game that was decided by a clock violation. I don't know if you heard about this. The Nationals and the Rockies tie game, bases loaded. Finnegan's pitching, very good reliever, by the way, and he took too long. The umpire jumped out, said that's a game, pitch violation. That was ball 4, and they scored the run. And I that's the first time I ever seen that. I do like the pitch clock, and this is nothing new. I heard that Finnegan leads the league with 9 pitching violations, but that's the only one that cost him the game, that actually ended the game.
Yeah,
So
that's his fault.
yeah,
I,
oh yeah,
and a lot of people were upset saying, see how stupid this is. We've had a game decided by that. There are two things that people hate: the ghost runner and this. Okay. And they don't hate the pitch clock until something like this happens. And it's like, oh, yeah, see, I told you this was going to happen. Well, yeah, it's going to happen, but whose
yeah,
fault is it? It's
the pitcher.
Finnegan's. We've
Yeah.
had a couple of years of the pitch clock. If he's too dumb to know, hey, I gotta throw the ball faster, that's his problem. Maybe after the game, his teammates went up to him and said, pitch faster, dude. That's all you gotta
Yeah.
do. So I don't have any sympathy for that. And the people who are angry at the ghost runner, this isn't baseball, so on and so forth. It's I know I'm a nostalgist. I'm a nostalgic person. I love history. I'm very fondly look back at things and stuff like that. I do get that. But I look at it this way. This isn't my game anymore. I've handed it off to the next generation, and they have to do what they have to do for the next generation. Every other sport has done this. Football changes the rules all the
Every
time.
year.
And
Yeah.
every rule change that they do is a response to what the fans are looking for. Basketball has done the same thing. I remember there was a day when there wasn't a three-point shot in the NBA. There was in the ABA, but there wasn't in the NBA. And then in the NBA, they started the 3-point shot. They had the shot clock. There was at one time you could not have a zone defense. You can have that now because things evolved. And one of the issues with baseball, one of the reasons why we lost a generation of baseball fans is because it was looked at as a slow, lumbering game that old white people watched. And that's kind of what we had become before they decided about 10 years ago. We got to start doing something about some of this stuff. And so I don't really have a problem with any of the rule changes. I look at it this way: you can play Monopoly a couple of ways. There's sometimes, I sit down and play a game of Monopoly and say, okay, what do you do with free parking? Well, this is how we divvy out free parking. If there's money from whatever in the kitty, whoever lands on free parking gets it all. I've played games where I say, well, no, we then roll for it to see who gets it. As long as I know the rules going into Monopoly, I'm okay with how we're going to play it. So Finnegan should know going into the into the game, these are the rules. I got to play by them. After 8 pitch clock violations, you'd think, especially with the bases loaded and the game on the line, pitch the ball a little bit faster, dude.
If it was me pitching, I would be a nervous wreck. You got a 3-2 count. You got to throw a strike. You know the batter. You know how he's been hitting. You know what's working for you that day. You're trying to make an agreement with the catcher. What are we going to throw? And that clock is ticking. Something about that clock ticking. It's so anti-baseball because baseball, you could score literally. You could score 100 runs in an inning if you just kept hitting. It's timeless. The time clock now, you've got that set in your head. It's like a quarterback being in the pocket. You know that 350-pound guy's coming, and you can feel it. You got to let that ball go. You can't just sit there and hang on in the pocket or you're going to get killed. I looked at some statistics too. I love statistics. The team that has the most pitch violations is the San Diego Padres. Uh, they are they have 18 pitch and 3 batter, so 21. The top 4 that's most violations are the Padres, the Brewers, the Astros, and the Pirates. The Cubs are 26th in the league. Only 10 pitch violations, and the Cardinals are 26th. I'm not saying for better or worse. It just is what it is. And at least that part of the game we've got down where we can, let's go, let's get in there. And I've seen some, but I've never seen it decide the game. That was the only thing in that thing. And if it was me, I'd fake a heart attack. I'd say my pitch thing didn't work. I do something. If I see 1 second, I'd say, hey, my pitch thing ain't working. I'd fall down clutching my chest. Something. You got to do something. You can't lose that way, man. Just lob one in there. Take your chance.
Well, here's a walk down memory lane. Do you remember the first rule they implemented to speed up the games? And when I say it, you're going to go, oh, yeah, because it's not even an issue anymore. No one thinks about it.
I don't know. What was it?
The first thing they did is they limited mound visits to six per game
That's right. They sure did.
because there was a time, and Wilson Contreras was catching for the Cubs. There were innings when he would make two or three visits to the mound to talk to the pitcher. I was like, oh, would you get your butt back there and catch the ball?
And
It's
you got to pitch to three batters now. Tony La Russa used to. Oh, the game would get so slow the last three innings. He would
yeah.
righty, lefty, and he won. But gosh, it drug. I do like the three pitch. You got to pitch to at least three guys. It's a strategy. It's a different kind of strategy, but it is a strategy the team has to put in place now. I do like that. You're right. That was the first rule right there. I don't even think about it anymore.
Hey, you never think about it anymore. It
There
is
was a
still kept on the scoreboard. Uh,
yeah.
Now visits, but nobody looks at it. Nobody cares. I bet it's been 5, 6 years since I've heard it mentioned in a ball game. And
Uh,
I watched a few ball games the last five
yes, sir.
years.
Yes, sir. There was one the other day where I think it was the Brewers coach got thrown out of the game, ejected, and their bench coach and the pitching coach both went out there, and the other coach was like, "Hey, is this two mound visits? What the heck's going on?" There was like 11 guys on the infield talking. He goes, "What's going on? You can't bring everybody out and talk." I don't. They're going to have to just clean that up a little bit. I'm with that coach. Like, hey, why are they bringing everybody out here? What's going on?
Um, are we done with general news?
uh, yeah, that's it for me on general news right there.
Well, you want to do Cardinal news?
Yeah, sure. Vince, what a difference a year makes. I'm telling you what, the Cardinals are playing a lot of one-run games. Last year, I mean, you know me, I'm eternally optimistic. I just love watching the game, watching the young players. I think because last year was so bad that a lot of guys got some experience that may not have. We made some moves at the trading deadline and got some prospects, and they seem to be really moving up the ladder. And I think especially our pitching in the minor leagues was lean. So we traded these five guys and got some prospects, and all these guys are starting to really make their presence known. Some have come up for a cup of coffee and went back down. We're moving a lot of guys. We got a Memphis shuttle going where we're bringing a lot of relievers up for a day or two, and then they go back down because they have options. And I'm not going to bore everybody with every single game, but since we did the last show 2 weeks ago, the Cardinals are 8-5, and we came home and had a really good homestand. We played the Giants, Atlanta, and the Reds, and we're 3-0 against the Giants. And the Giants, I see them as a team similar to us. They were three pretty good games, two very close games, and then one we won clearly. We played Atlanta, who I consider one of the elite teams. They were playing the game here to play us, so I think that gives us a little better odds. But we took 2 out of 3, which against Atlanta these days, of course, they don't have Acuna Jr. But the year they won the World Series, they didn't have Acuna Jr. and they don't have Strider, who's their best pitcher or has been their best pitcher. And we took 2 out of 3, and they were very good games. And it looked like, hey, you know what? We could give these teams a good match, good series if we met up in the world. Right now, if everything was equal as it is then, we could have a shot. Not, I'm sure the odds are still with the Braves, but I like the teams getting better and coming together. There's some good things there. And then we played the Reds and we split with the Reds. The 2 games the Reds won, they just wiped us out. A lot of speed, running, defense. The Reds are not to be trifled with. That's a good team with a lot of good young players. I don't know if they're as deep as some of these other teams, but they've got some superstars on that team, some good young pitching, a stud in the bullpen, and some really good hitters there. That India kid is fantastic. And of course, everybody's talking about De La Cruz at shortstop. That guy's man, fantastic. That's awesome. I don't know in the long run if a 6'5" guy or whatever he is gonna, and when he reaches 30, how good he can play shortstop, because that's gotta be rough on your body. But right now, oh good night. He's stealing bases left and right. You can't stop him. So anyway, that homestand, we go 7-3. You can't be down on that. And then we hit a road trip where we go play the Pirates and the Nationals. Now, a lot of people see these teams as teams we should beat, and we beat the Pirates 2 out of 3. But again, that's a good team. And what happened was we've got a lot of really good hitters that work the count and get into their bullpen. A lot of the starters are out by the fifth inning. We won 7-4, we lost 4-5, and we won 3-2. Every game was competitive. Either team could win all three of those games. And then we played the Nationals and we took 3 out of 4. And again, I feel lucky to get these wins because each of these teams fought us and they were tough fought games. But I remember way back, it was maybe in the 90s when the Braves would win games 3-2, 2-3. And when they got to the playoffs, they were battle tested. The stress didn't get to them because they did that all year long. And so 8-5 since the last 2 weeks ago when we met. I'm so happy about that. Lars Nootbaar is back, and Lars brings. If you watch a lot of Cardinal games, he's usually on the front step, cheering his teammates on, giving you everything he's got. He's a little injury prone, but he came back, and Fermin, who's been fabulous, takes good at bats, doesn't get to play a whole lot, went back to Memphis. So that's good. And just a few things I was going to go over as far as the team. We got veterans, Contreras, Arenado, and Goldie. And I tell you what, it's a pleasure watching those three play. So nice to have Contreras back. Supposed to be out 12 weeks. He came back in 6.5. They're calling him the Wolverine because he's got titanium in that arm. And man, that guy can hit. So veteran presence. I don't think Arenado and Goldie over the last 2 years, their hitting has went down, their powers went down, but they still play top-notch third base and first base, and they hold down the defense in the infield. Good veteran presence. Our defense, our infield. Oh my gosh, it's fun watching them. And we've got really 4 really good defenders in the outfield. That's really good. The young guys are coming through. A lot of these guys got a lot of playing time last year, and Burleson has stepped forward and become the player. I give Mozeliak and the team a lot of credit for hanging on to these guys when last year it was like, what are you doing? You should move these guys and get a new batch of players. But Burleson, you mentioned Wynn earlier. Uh, it's just they're just getting better and better. And then we've had players come out of nowhere. Sometimes when the magic happens and the team just kind of goes, this Paz kid, I didn't even know him at catcher, playing great defense. Let Contreras rest and get a lot of DHing in, and he's very good defensively, and he's gotten some hits, and he's getting better and better. Herrera has done a good job hitting. He needs some work on his defense. For me, like I mentioned, going back and forth, and this kid Ciani, he wasn't even on the depth chart, and we got him from the Cincinnati Reds, and he's playing Gold Glove caliber outfield out there, just going down, chasing out balls. Usually once a game, he dives all out and makes a catch. And then I have to say in the bullpen, Palante and Livator has done a very good job. Emergency starts, long relievers, keeping us in games where it doesn't look good at the beginning of the game. And the bullpen holds the fort, and we come back and make it a competitive game. And lastly, a lot of people laughed when we went and got Matt Carpenter and Brandon Crawford. But those guys, what I've heard in the locker room, have really come through as far as their veteran leadership. They've been there, they've done that. Crawford's won a bunch of World Series, and it's going to be vital down the stretch working with these young guys. And, a calming element. Crawford doesn't get to play much. Carpenter plays a little more, and they've come up with some plays. Crawford really hasn't done much this year, but I think on the bench he's been a big player. And but our second wave in our bullpen, Vince, that's been the difference. The second wave we've got 4 really good relievers, and they work them to death. But I just wanted to shout out to King, Roycroft, Livator, and Palante. And Leahy's been back and forth a little bit, but those 4 guys have come in and done a very solid job keeping us in games, usually going 1 and 2/3 innings and getting us where the Helsleys, the Fernandez, who was hurt all last year, he's a Rule 5 guy. Kittredge and JoJo Romero can get a day's rest here and there and keep this thing going forward. So I'm just enjoying the season. I'm grateful. If it all ended tomorrow, I've had a great time watching this team, and I like to see what we got because we got some tough series. Just this week alone, we got a double hitter with the Royals, a day off, and then we got a 4-game series before the All-Star break with our friends, the Chicago Cubs, with another doubleheader on Saturday. So I'm sure we're going to see Liberatore and Palante in there, and let's see what happens because the Cubs have that starting pitching. I give you guys the nod in starting pitching, but our old veterans have hung in there and done a good job. So, Vince, I went a little long on that, but I just wanted to send some shout out to that second wave of bullpen guys have been so good for us this year.
Well, the Cubs, 5-7 since our last podcast. There are signs that they are coming out of it. I've seen some bad teams. Um, this is not a bad team. This has been a team that's just been in a 2 month slump, and you don't see that happen. And like I said, I remember in I think it was the '86 Cardinals after they lost the World Series. They just that year with the same team just had trouble scoring runs. I think McGee's average went down to the 250s after winning the batting title and the MVP the year before. So stuff like this happens. I do want to say, very proud of the Chicago Cubs. Sunday on July 7th, we became the first team in Major League Baseball to have an all-female booth. Beth Mowens, who's been doing play-by-play for decades in Major League Baseball. There are fans that don't like her voice. Yeah, one guy was complaining, about her voice. Yeah, she doesn't have the golden voice of a Harry Carey. Um, but Beth Mowens is doing play-by-play. Elise Menaker, who she's on the Cubs broadcast sometimes as the field reporter when Taylor McGregor isn't there. But I heard her last year do a game in the radio when the whole radio booth was in Cooperstown for Pat Hughes' induction, and she did the um, commentating on that game from the radio. I thought, my golly, she's good. She does AAA baseball. Um, she did the commentating, and she was fantastic. And Taylor McGregor is, she's for 130 games a year. She's our on-field correspondent, so she was there. They did great. Of course, you had the people who are, making misogynistic comments online and stuff like that. Um, but I thought they did a fantastic job. I'm not one who, I don't know. I don't really care too much who's calling games. There are some people that are more interesting than others, but I'm still watching the game,
Yeah.
Um, but I'm very proud that the Cubs actually were in the forefront and broke that ceiling on the game on Sunday. Um, Listen to this. This is our stairway to the IL and back. I mean, it's just
Oh, it's been rough.
Yency Almonte has been placed on the 60-day IL. He's got a shoulder impingement and he has opted to have the surgery, so he's out for the year. Javier Assad had to be placed on the 15-day IL right forearm strain. We did get Jorge Lopez. We purchased him from the minors. For those of you who don't remember, he was the pitcher for the Mets this year, but they got rid of when he threw his glove in the stands.
I remember him. Yes.
So he's been around. He's a pretty good pitcher. He's pitched for the Brewers before, and Council likes him, and he's done good since he's had about 4 or 5 outings, and he's done good. Keegan Thompson on the 15-day IL. Ethan Roberts was recalled, so we got Ethan Roberts back, coming back from Tommy John surgery. Good news, Caleb Killian has started his rehab in the minors. He pitched great in spring training, and we thought he was going to be a piece for a bullpen and spot starter. And when the year started, he had to go on the 60-day IL, and so he's rehabbing in the minors. We did sign catcher Christian Betancourt for he's been in the majors, bounced around for a while. We have him in AAA, and he's backup catcher in AAA. So if we do have an injury, we have a seasoned catcher we can at least call up for a backup catcher. which would mean we would have three backup catchers because we really don't have a starting catcher. Um, this is Colton Brewers on the 60-day IL, and I'll get into that in a minute.
Oh,
And Hunter Biggie, who has been an absolute stud in the minors this year, an ERA, I think, around 1. We called him up, and I've yet to see him pitch. I don't know if he's in. Checking to see if he's in the game tonight. No, not yet. But anyway, I'm not going to go over all the games. I do want to hit the highlights. On the 26th, the Wednesday after we recorded, PCA scored from first base on a single from Amaya, and it wasn't even close. Now,
he's
it was a
it'll,
hit and run. He was running. I think it was 3-2, and he was running, but it was just a single into, I think it was right center, and he kept going. And he's like the Roadrunner cartoon. I cannot believe how fast, it's not just how fast, how quick he's at full acceleration. He's just boom. It's like he shot out of a cannon. On our game on the 27th, we won 5-3 against the Giants with Horner and Happ going long. Happ hit a 2-run home run in the top of the 10th, and that's how we won that game. Porter Hodge came in, got his first major league game save, so we were pretty excited about that. That was in San Francisco. Happ hitting the home run to give us the lead, and Hodge coming in and nailing it down in the bottom.
yeah.
On the 29th, we won 5-3 against the Brewers. Bush and Happ went long. Neris got the save. But Justin Steele started that game. Justin Steele 0-3 going into this game, and that sounds terrible, but someone asked, is it possible for a pitcher to go a whole month without winning a game and getting pitcher of the month? He could have got pitcher of the month. So in the third, there is a comebacker to Steele, and there's a runner on second, and he's got him in no man's land. So Steele does the right thing. He runs him back to second and then throws the ball. And then Swanson doesn't sprint at the runner. He just kind of pushes the ball to Morrell. And by the time he got it, it was Bryce Terrain. By the time Morrell got it, he's on third base. You make that play in Little League. There was no excuse for it. Steele did everything right. And this is Swanson, our Gold Glove veteran infielder who so bad wants to be the GM of this team and the leader. And I'm not joking. He's in the air of management all the time. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. Well, back it up with your play, and then maybe we'll listen to you. But anyway.
I saw that game. I just thought there was a lack of hustle too. And I give the pitcher credit because he held his composure till it came off the field.
Yeah. Well, then later on in the inning, you were a catcher, so you understand my anger about this. And this is the second time that this has happened within a week. Steele's, no, it's the first time it happened again. Steele's pitching, and they're calling right-hander up. Steele's the left-hander. They're throwing the back foot slider. Okay. You as a catcher have to know, I got to be ready to block this. He wasn't ready to block it. He tried to backhand. The ball went to Steele. Is not one to hold his emotions in check. I could tell on the mound he is very pissed off. I was pissed off, thinking, you got to know that pitch is coming. And one of the things that agitates me, Amaya's not the only one that does this, but if you anticipate that you're going to have a back foot slider on either side, you've got to be ready to slide over. And if you're got one knee planted in the dirt, you can't possibly be ready to slide over, which he wasn't. Tries for the backhand. The ball goes. And anyway, we had a lot of soft contact. There was a single there that Morrell probably wasn't going to make a play on, but if he would have hustled, he could have knocked it down, made it an infield single, just kind of jogged at it, went out to left field. It was the worst inning that I had seen us have in years. It reminded me of the Cubs when I was growing up. And so when Steele finally gets out of the inning, he lays into the team. Wake the F up. I was so happy. And for at least that game, they waked the F up. And we got the win, 1-5-3. Neris got the save. Steele deserved the win, but that's just how he's pitching this year. Yeah. 6-7 innings, 1-3 runs, and gets a no decision. So anyway, I was so happy to see Steele call out the team and say, "Wake up." On July 2nd, we lost to the Phillies. PCA was stealing third base, and he was safe because he's 16 for 60. No one's going to be able to throw him out because he's so fast. And anyway, he had the oven mitt on, but his hand went underneath the third baseman, and the spike sliced his thumb, so he had to get stitches. So he hasn't been back yet. He was not put on the IL, and they said that he has resumed baseball duties. I heard that today. So he's probably going to start playing tomorrow, or certainly by the Cardinal series that he'll start playing. The game on the 4th, we beat the Phillies 10-2. Hap 4 for 4, 2 3-run home runs, 6 RBIs. Tyon got the win. Hap is super hot. He had a 2-run home run earlier in today's game. You can't get the guy out right now, and he's been hot since the end of May. If he wouldn't have had such an abysmal start, he would certainly be an all-star. And with some injuries, he might still kind of itch his way in there, because even though his average isn't high, his on-base percentage is very high. His slugging percentage is very high. He's pushing 60 RBIs now. I think he was his 14th or 15th he hit tonight. Having a heck of a year. And then on the 5th, we beat the Angels 5-1. Steele finally got his victory. He had to go the distance, so nobody could screw it up. Complete game. He is now 1-3 with an ERA of 2.95 and 13 starts. Suzuki hit a 2-run home run. Hap had a couple more hits. And then Saturday on the 6th, we lost 7-0 to the Angels. And Colton Brewer came in and had a comebacker that was an easy double play. And he decided, I'm going to throw the ball to nobody and let it roll into the outfield and open the floodgates. And so Colton Brewer goes into the dugout and decides, you know what? I think I'll just punch the brick wall, 60-day IL, out for the rest of the season. And I was so happy the council actually called him out saying, we don't need that kind of crap. You hurt the team. You're not with us for the rest of the year now because you had a bad outing, and instead of taking a bat to a cooler like a normal guy would do, you decide to punch the wall. So then Sunday, we did win. 5-0 was Nesky, pitched into the 7th. Neris got his 12th save. Bush hits his 11th home run. Bush has also hit a home run today. Possibly an all-star snub. I don't know. He's having a heck of a year. So that's it for the Cubs. That's it for the Cardinals. But it's not it for guess who? Jeremy Connor.
Jeremy Connor.
Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. Thank you, Jeremy. Well, JJ and I are going to finish out the diamond, and we're going to talk about our top 5 right fielders that we have seen in our lifetime. And JJ, Beazle, there's been some great right fielders. I've got guys on my honorable mention that are in the Hall of Fame. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. It's been a great ride with some of these right fielders. Some of them had a 8-year excellence. Some guys, their whole careers. You want me to go first?
And go ahead and go first.
All right. I tried to get a card. There's one card I couldn't find, so I put a substitute in there. But my number 5 is the original, the senior Vladimir Guerrero, like that card with
Mighty.
the Expos right there. Yeah, I put Vladdy there because he's got a 59.5 WAR, 9 All-Stars. That's a decade of excellence right there, where everybody recognized you as the very best, and your 8 Silver Sluggers. He played, I believe it was 16 years. He played with Montreal, California, Texas, and Baltimore. Had 2,590 hits. So not only a power guy, he could hit, 1,496 RBIs, 181 stolen bases. He ended his career with a 318 batting average. That's fantastic for a season. He did that for a career. And his walks to strikeouts, that's very big in my book because the strikeout kills you. And usually these power guys strike out quite a bit. But 737 walks to 985 strikeouts over 16 years, that's phenomenal. I always recognized him with a great arm. He was a guy, no matter who played the team he was on, he was a focal point. You had to get him out. You didn't want to, you tried not to pitch to him, but he made everybody else in the lineup better. And what a player. I put, so number 5, I put Vladimir Guerrero Sr.
Okay. My number 5 is a guy who is not in the Hall of Fame, but I think he certainly needs to be. And he's very looked, and he's forgotten by fans just about everywhere except for Boston. My number 5 is Dwight Evans, who played from
Dewey.
72 to 91, 272 batting average, 2,446 hits, 385 home runs, 1,384 RBIs, a WAR. Now you talked about Vladdy with a WAR of 50 something in the Hall
59
of
point.
Fame.
Yeah.
Dwight Evans' WAR is 67.2. Why is he not in the Hall of Fame? 840 OPS. He only played in 3 All-Star games. He did win 8 Gold Gloves, 2 Silver Sluggers, and he did actually win a home run title in the 1981 season that was a shortened season, but he did lead the league in home runs. I think he tied with Tony Armas,
Oh, yeah.
like
There you
that.
go.
But when you think about it, who was playing right field most of his career? Reggie Jackson. So
Uh,
Reggie kind of overshadowed so many people, so it was kind of hard for him to break through there. But I certainly have always thought that Dwight Evans should be a Hall of Famer. And if those Boston teams that came up short in what was it, 78 when they collapsed, they didn't really collapse. I don't like people
75.
say yeah 75, but like in 78 people say, well, they collapsed. They didn't really. The Yankees just overtook them because they still won like 99 games. That's not a collapse.
No.
Um, but just didn't have that World Series championship. But I certainly think that he is deserving. So I put him at number 5.
He could play on my team anytime. That was a workman. He'd go out there and just get the job done. Well, my number 4, there's legends and then there's superstars. And my number 4, and this is my favorite card of the guy. We just mentioned him a while ago, Mr. Reggie Jackson. Look at that. That's a superstar right there, ladies and gentlemen. Reggie Jackson. We've talked about him on this podcast many times. There was something about Reggie Jackson. He was always in the middle of everything. The greatest strikeout I ever seen was Reggie Jackson, Bob Welch. This went on forever, just kept fouling it off. Dodgers and Yankees. Oh, it was fantastic. It was my fastball against your fastball swing, and it was fantastic. 21 years he played. I think Reggie, that was just in his DNA, baseball. He played for 4 teams. I love the Oakland A's. He played for the Oakland A's. He was in World Championships there. Played for the Yankees. Played for the Angels, and the Angels came close a couple of times. 82, the Brewers barely beat him out to go to the World Series. And deep down, I wanted the Angels to win that in the playoffs so I could see Reggie Jackson play the Cardinals at Busch Stadium. That would have been so fun. Um, and then he played a half a season with the Orioles. And a lot of people don't remember that. My friend Hodge had a team picture with Reggie Jackson in it. 10 All-Star games. You think of baseball in that time period. Reggie Jackson is one of the first names that come up. Um, he I'm sorry. I was looking at somebody else. 14 All-Star games. He was an MVP. He was two-time Silver Slugger, five-time world champion. Reggie was a winner. Whoever he played for, he made that team better. He was two-time World Series MVP, and Reggie had a 74 a 74 war. And it seems like when the games mattered, he was just on another planet. He took it up a notch. I never seen anything like it, hence the nickname Mr. October. He had 2,584 hits, 1,702 RBIs. Here's a surprise. Vince, he stole 228 bases. I never remember Reggie Jackson still second unless it was a pass ball or something. I don't remember him being a base stealer. Um, 563 home runs. He's up there with the all-time greats there. But this did he leads all of baseball lifetime in strikeouts. 2,597 because Reggie never he got his money's worth. He swung for the hills every time he went up there. So my number 4, the great Reggie Jackson right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, my number 4 is my only current player, and that is Mookie Betts, who started in 2014, and he's still playing. He has a 295 lifetime average, already eclipsed 1,500 hits, 262 home runs, 796 RBIs, and this is his 11th season, so he's still got a lot more mileage in the tank. 181 stolen bases, and right fielders usually aren't people who steal a lot of bases, and so he's probably going to finish his career with over 300. 68, and remember, he played for the Red Sox, who never steal. Well, they do now, but
Yeah.
they didn't
Back in
for
them days.
decades. Yeah. 68.8 career WAR, 899 OPS. He has won one MVP, 6 Gold Gloves, 6 Silver Sluggers, a batting title. And I'd like to see where this list looks in 10 years when he's done, to see where he is on that. There are so many great current right fielders, and I'll talk about that when I get to my honorable mentions. But he's the one that I think right now he's got enough of a track record to say he belongs in this top 5. So I've got Mookie Betts at number 4.
I tell you what, there's been a lot of great right fielders through the history of the game. We're really looking like the last 50 years here. But number 3, and I'll tell you why he's only three of the third greatest in my lifetime, but Ichiro Suzuki. He played 19 years in the big leagues, but if you remember, he played 9 years over in the Japanese league. And so, my gosh, 3 teams he played for here, and I got to see him play up in Seattle when I went up there in 2010. Got to see him play, but he also played for the Yankees. The Yankees, they get everybody to go through there one time or another. And then the Miami Marlins, he played down there as well. 10 All-Star games, a decade of excellence. 2 batting titles, ladies and gentlemen, 2 batting titles, 10 Gold Gloves. Oh my gosh, that's up there with the elite players defensively in the history of the game. 3 Silver Sluggers, an All-Star MVP. You couldn't take your eyes off this guy. Sometimes he'd swing and run at the same time, and he'd leg out these infield hits. He was phenomenal. Like I said, a 60 WAR. He had over 3,000 hits, 3,089, 780 RBIs, which is kind of low, but he was a leadoff man. So that's understandable for a leadoff man. 509 stolen bases. That's just incredible. And his walks to strikeouts, fantastic. He had 647 walks, 1,080 strikeouts, and he did have 117 home runs. And that's for a leadoff guy who was a lot of people. He just slapped the ball, and man, he'd run like the Dickens. So Ichiro Suzuki, a big part of the baseball, a big star back in those days, and it was a pleasure watching that guy play baseball.
My number 3 has already been mentioned, and that's Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. Not going to belabor what you said, except I do want to highlight something that you brought up. Reggie Jackson was the baseball what Michael Jordan was the basketball. When he got to the finals, he's taking over. He is taking over, and he's saying, "Get on my back, and I will carry you through." And that's what he did. Every postseason, he was big. And it still amazes me that in the decade of the 70s, where there were 10 World Series champions, he played on five of those on two different teams. Just fantastic. So Reggie Jackson, my number three.
All right. I didn't have a card for Ichiro, so I got, and we like bringing this guy's name up, but I went and got a BB Richards card because I couldn't find an Ichiro card.
Hold on, hold on. I have an Ichiro card.
Ah, there he is. All right. Very good. Well, my number
Wow,
two.
I'm more prepared than you are with a baseball
Oh
card.
my gosh, I just messed up. Well, Vince, I did a lot of stats. I looked at about 12 players. I narrowed it from 50 down to 12, and then I had to get to five. And this guy here, I couldn't deny how great he was. I knew he was good. I knew he was great, but I didn't know he was number two. And this is the guy I put at number two. I got his 1974 Padre card, Dave Winfield. And Vince, I knew it. I just didn't know the statistics were so great. 22 years playing in the big leagues. This guy was an ultimate athlete. He got drafted, I think, in three sports. And he could have played football, basketball, and baseball, and he picked baseball. And I'm glad he did. He played with six teams. He was on 12 All-Star teams, so more All-Star teams there. Um, seven Gold Gloves, so he was also good defensively, and six Silver Sluggers and World Championship with Toronto. A 64.2 WAR. He had over 3,000 hits. That's almost a guarantee to Cooperstown, and he is in the Hall of Fame. 3,110 RBIs, 1853. Stolen bases, 223. I didn't know he had that many. He ended with a 283 lifetime batting average and home runs 465. And his walks to strikeouts, he actually uh, 1,216 walks, 1,686 strikeouts. That's very good for a power hitter. He had every aspect of the game. He had defense, he could run, he had power, and he had a good batting average as well. And he made every team he was on better. And Dave Winfield, fantastic player. I got him at number two, Mr. Dave Winfield, 1974 card right there.
Well, my number two is Tony Gwynn.
Ah,
Played from 82 to 2001, the late Tony Gwynn. A lifetime batting average of 338, 3,141 hits. He did drive in 1,138 runs. He had a WAR of 69.2, which is really good. His OPS is 847, and even though he didn't have a lot of home runs by the volume of hits and extra base hits, his OPS is way up there. Hall of Famer, 15 All-Star selections, 5 Gold Gloves, 7 Silver Slugger, but 8 batting titles. Awesome. And not only 8 batting titles, in 20 years of playing, 20 years, he only struck out 334 times. Stupid.
my gosh.
He's not stupid. That's stupid as in awesome.
That's awesome. Well,
So,
I got my number one card here, Mr. Tony
wait,
Gwynn.
let's
Oh,
do your honorable mentions.
oh,
Because
honorable
I
mentions.
think the honorable mentions are most interesting.
My honorable mentions were, let me see, I've got them written down somewhere in here. Well, Manny Ramirez, but the steroid thing, but what a player. Convicted twice of steroids. And I think a third time, that's why he retired. Darryl Strawberry, for that short amount of time he played, he was a phenomenal player. I have, I wrote so small on here. Larry Walker. Larry Walker had a very good career. His WAR is out of sight. 3 batting titles. Um, Dave Parker. I always was a big Dave Parker fan. I think I'm more as a fan than if you're going through statistics, but he had a very great career. And I have Dwight Evans. Those were my 5 honorable mentions right there.
Very good. Go ahead. You're number one.
Oh
My
yeah,
number two.
yeah. Tony Gwynn, just Mr. Padre. I mean, when you're the Mr. Cub, Mr. Cardinal, you're pretty much a great player. You mentioned 8 batting titles. There's only one guy has tied him and one guy's better. Ty Cobb, 12, and Hornus Wagner has 8. And if you're talking about the losers who only have 7 batting titles, you're talking about Rod Carew, Rogers Hornsby, and Stan Musial. That's fantastic. He is the 42nd hardest guy to strike out in the history of the game. And most of these names are guys that played 1880s, 1940s, and that bracket. Very few modern day players. But the hardest player in the what I would call the modern era, there's a guy who's the 25th hardest guy to strike out. And it's New York Met Felix Millan. Remember that guy?
Yeah, yeah.
He was evidently very hard to strike out. And one guy, he was like one spot ahead of, he actually had the same percentage, but it was a little bit harder percentage to strike. Glenn Burkett of the Cubs was a little harder to strike out than Tony Gwynn, which is saying something. Now, he didn't have the kind of hitting career that Tony did, but to strike out, he's very hard. So Tony's one of the hardest guys, like the 42nd hardest guy to strike out in the history of the game. But not only did he strike out only 334 times, he walked 790. So this guy put the bat on the ball, and people like Greg Maddux and Glavine and those guys were like, he just wore those guys out. So what a player, and 20 years of baseball, a 69.2 WAR, and every category he's Hall of Fame worthy, defense, everything. So I put Tony Gwynn my number one.
Okay, my number one is probably going to get me crucified by some of our listeners because my number one wasn't even on your top five.
Oh,
My number one is Larry Walker.
oh,
I
honorable.
think
I
he
did.
was the best right fielder I saw as far as a complete package. Played from 89 to 05, started with the Expos and went to the Rockies. I don't know where he finished his career. I don't know.
Hey, over here in St. Louis, baby.
313 career batting average. He did have 2,160 hits, 383 home runs, 1,311 RBIs. Now his career wasn't as long as a lot of these other guys,
You're right.
so that stunted some of his numbers. But this is what sticks out about him as a hitter. His WAR is 72.7, which on my list of top five, only one person has a higher WAR, and that's Reggie at 74. Listen to this. This is stupid. His OPS is 965 for his career. Hall of Famer, 5-time All-Star, 7 Gold Gloves. He could field like it was nobody's business, and he had one of the most accurate. I've seen right fielders with stronger arms. His arm was very strong, but best arm I ever saw from right field was probably Ellis Valentine. I've said that many times. And then there are people saying, "Who the hell was Ellis Valentine?" But
He's good.
um, uh, Walker just had a tremendously accurate arm. He won 3 Silver Sluggers, 1 MVP, and 3 batting titles. Um, and I remember it was kind of controversial that when he made the Hall of Fame, there were people saying, "Did he do enough? Did he do enough?" Well, I just know every time he played the Cubs, and I don't care who he was playing, that was the player that was in the middle of something, either defensively, offensively. He could steal a base every now and then. He could go long. He just impacted a game better than I think any other right fielder I've ever seen. And people are going to say, well, he's not the best right fielder, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is the best that my eyes have seen. And I knew he was going to be in my top five. I knew he was going to be in my top three, but when I started going over the statistics, it was like, yes, justified. Then I thought, man, this guy may be number one, and he is number one. My honorable mentions were Dave Parker, Dave Winfield, Hall of Fame, Vladimir Guerrero, Hall of Fame, Ichiro Suzuki, Hall of Fame. I also have Bobby Abreu, a very underrated right
Oh,
fielder. He
yeah.
was fantastic. And I've also got modern day players, Bryce Harper and Aaron Judge on there. Um, but that's my top five. I like your top five.
Oh, yours is great.
And
Yeah.
I think this was the only one I thought me and JJ, we could probably have three or four of these interchanged. You know, we could have completely different lists than we actually did. So kind of cool.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I think the next time what we need to do, I think we need to do managers, best we've seen.
Ooh.
Before we do managers, I've got a fun one because this isn't going to matter anymore in the history of baseball. Pinch hitters.
Oh, pinch hitters.
Have we done
Okay.
designated hitters?
I'll have to go back and look. I don't
Um,
know.
Maybe we'll, if we haven't done it, we can do designated hitters, but I also want to do pinch hitters.
Oh, that'd be great. There's a lot of great pinch hitters,
Yeah.
and those guys kind of get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, now that there's DH everywhere, you're not going to see the kind of like Jerry Morales when you're at 25 pinch hits, and
Yeah.
you're not going to see the Manny Motas, the Steve
Steve
Braun.
Braun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Braun.
Oh,
Well, you go first with the cards because I actually have my Enos Slaughter thing done back here. I was going to kind of show that off. I got my
okay. I have the Leaf set. Um, it's got the Harmon Killebrew Hall of Fame puzzle.
Ooh.
Nice
Oh
shiny
yeah.
foil package.
Catches the eye.
Yes. And I'm gonna say I got two Hall of Famers.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say that.
You're due because last time we've only had like one. So I'm going to go with the average one. I'm going one.
Okay. Center fielder for the A's, batted second in that lineup that went to three straight World Series. Dave Henderson.
Oh yeah, Dave. Boston
Very
Red
good
Sox
player.
too.
One of the first players that had power that batted second. LaRussa liked to have someone come up in the two holes with some pop and put Dave Henderson there. Former Cub, former Padre, at this time he's with Pittsburgh, Carmelo Martinez.
Oh yeah. I remember him.
Former Expo, Steve Fry.
Okay. Don't know a lot about him, but I remember the name.
For the Braves, first baseman outfielder Tommy Gregg.
No,
No.
don't remember him.
Former Cub, former Expo, and I think let's see, did he play for the Astros? Not sure. Delino DeShields.
Oh yeah, real fast. Good bunter.
Uh, Checklist. So
Those are actually very valuable when you put a set together. People can't find the checklists.
yeah. For the Kansas City Royals, the guy who never had caffeine, Russ Morman.
It's always knocking on my door.
Uh, on his bike. He rode his bike to the ballpark. Catcher for the Blue Jays, Greg Myers.
Oh, okay. I remember the name. I do remember the name.
And there is Harmon Killebrew's butt. I don't know. Butt, belly. I don't know what that
I don't know
is.
what that is. Yeah. Is this love handle?
Pitcher for the Dodgers, Jim Gott. Had a decent
Oh,
career.
yeah. Yeah.
Also, pitcher for the Mariners, Rich DeLucia.
Okay.
Didn't he have a stint with the Cardinals? Maybe I'm wrong.
I think so. I do, but I remember him as a Mariner mainly.
Oh, the man named after Stan the Man from his daddy, Julian Stan Javier.
Ah, yes. Nice player.
Former catcher for the Twins, Gino Petrali.
Okay.
Former pitcher for the Dodgers, Tim Cruz, had a good career.
Yes, he did.
Well, this pack sucks.
Well, I keep thinking there's going to be a big one coming.
There's not. We have shortstop George Husson or Jeff Houston.
Oh, Texas Rangers. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And outfielder for the Mariners, Greg Briley.
Greg Briley.
Yeah, I don't mean to disparage anybody who played Major League Baseball. This is probably the worst package I've opened since we've done this show.
Well,
The best thing is Harmon Killebrew's butt.
The last time I opened up one of those archive things. It was a retired player, and I got Jim Palmer, and I'm very happy with that. Well, since I saw you, I went and got a active player one, and Brody opened it, and we were very excited. The Ichiro and the Acuna Jr. are the big ones. And that one. Well, when we opened it, you get a card that says, "Congratulations, you got." I got a Manny Machado autograph card, but you got to like open it up, scratch off a thing, send it in, and they're going to send you the autograph card later. And I was like, man, if I'd known that, I just would have went with a retired player. So I got a Manny Machado one coming. So just know that if you go buy those archive cards, because you're going to have to wait maybe 3 weeks before you actually get the card. So that kind of stinks. But I finished, if I can get this over here without tearing it up, I finished my Enos Slaughter uh, display of all his Topps cards and Bowman cards. It's all in there. And I just going to show you a few, but that right there is the 1949 rookie card of Enos Slaughter. It's in black and white. And then this is the 49, which is actually a graded. I think that's a 3 on the graded. And I tell you what, they grade them pretty harshly. And that's the let's see, that's 48, 49, 50. And then this was a thing that I got signed with him on the bench when I was like in junior high. So I have so many things in there. These are autographed postcards and his Hall of Fame plaque. And I got that signed when I was in 8th grade too. That one there in the black and white over here. So anyway, I'm just showing that off. I've got so many in all the Topps cards. And in the Topps cards, there's 3 years he doesn't have a Topps card because he was gone to war. So you got all these Cardinal cards in 52, all the way up to like 56. And all of a sudden, when he comes back, he's with the Kansas City A's. And then I think his last 3 cards are with the Yankees. And 59 was the last year he had a card. So anyway, I looked these up. I got them all. I'm very happy. Kind of sad it's over because it was fun searching and looking for these cards. And I had a lot of card stores helping me out and keep putting them aside when they find them. So anyway, that was my project for the summer, and I finally got it done, and I'm pretty happy with it. And I think there's probably like 18 cards in there and about 5 postcards, but there's like 7 autograph pieces. So anyway, if anybody comes over, I'll show it to you. I'm pretty happy about it, but that's my card for this week.
Okay, do you sleep with that display?
No, but every morning I get up, it's almost like I start my day with a little silent moment and looking at all my Enos Slaughter stuff.
Oh, well, it's been a fun show.
It has been.
I mean, I drank weird beer.
Yes.
You can hear the nitro ball, whatever thing that's in there. Um, and you have a lot of reason to be optimistic, and I'm kind of thinking, we're looking okay now.
I
Okay,
guess it's a
may not be
long
going
season, a lot of
anywhere, but
games.
at least we're not. We're kind of coming out of the slump. We did beat the Orioles today, 9-2. JMO, another victory. JMO, sub three ERA. But he's not going to be an all-star. But very happy with how we're playing now. It's going to be a fun weekend. 4 games in 3 days going into the
Woo.
all-star break. And I'm just hoping we can get a couple wins out of there. And
I'll be happy with the split. Happy with the split.
I'll be happy with the split too. So, but anyway, JJ, you have a good week. And we will see you all next week, a day later.